I will start with Dr. Doyle, please. There you go. You're a professor at Canasta, and that's an opportunity to see immigrants from different parts of the world come to study. But one of the aims of the Rising Strong project is to challenge the narrative. Like I said earlier, we have said it too loudly, too often, and believed it too strongly that they have become, brick walls for us to rise. And so there are many of those narratives. Like they tell us you have to work twice as hard. You want to come in here, you have to start from scratch. You have to pick up a menial job first before you even think of advancing career-wise. And so as a brand, we want to be able to see that immigrants believe in what is actual. And for us, what is actual is what you have shared in those videos. So my question to you today, Doctor, is in what ways do you think sharing our personal stories can influence perceptions and create positive change within our community?
Thank you very much. First of all, I want to thank the organizers of this event, and I'm happy to be here to share my experience. Now, coming to your question, we actually need to ask the question, how did you get here? Did you come here as a refugee? Did you come here as a permanent resident? Are you here? You have many routes. We all know up to 50 routes that can actually take you to Canada. So if you're here as a new permanent resident, then certain things would have been resolved before you leave that country. Okay? For example, doing your English language test and doing your WES evaluation. So once you do the World Education Service evaluation, it actually qualifies you to convert your credential from Nigeria to what's obtainable here on the same level. So when you come here, I know there are survival jobs you have to do. And most of the employers are always asking for Canadian experience. Of course, I can't have an experience if I don't start from somewhere. So, to the Canadian employer, whatever job you take, put on your resume, is Canadian experience. Whether you were working as a laborer somewhere, or you work in the factory, wherever it is that experience. So, we're able to face that challenge heads on. Remember, we were talking about courage the other time. Being able to face that blow hard, heads on. And when you're told to speak, you have to address what is expected of you. So precisely telling our stories will be able to shape the lives of those who come after us. But I tell people, the first person you meet in Canada will determine how far you will go. Because the person you're meeting for the first time probably didn't know as much as you do. That's the funny thing. And they tell you authoritatively, no, you have to do it in the factory. You have to do this and that. When actually he's not aware that you can do World Education Service evaluation and get your credentials to use in Canada. Okay, so if the person has been working in the factory for a very long time, he's likely to recommend you to his boss and his friends around. He's going to do a good job. Okay, but we're talking here now that we can't limit ourselves. All right, this is a country where the belief in equal opportunities. Okay, so telling our stories will inspire people, but how much have you prepared for it? Like designing your resume. There are up to 10 samples of Canadian resumes. Just one of them will be edited. And on the first page of your resume, it's important for you to say almost everything about you. Whoever is going to employ you must see all your facts on the first page. For example, you don't have to go through the stress of flipping and flipping. Okay? So I think for each and every one of us, it's been different experiences. And that's what we have come to share here tonight. So that experience may help some people, it may not help some people. But at least from this panel, I believe we will pick something up.
Sure, I'm very confident about that. And Fidelia, over to you now, please. Thank you, Doctor, for giving us those insights. The way you explain them, it's very clear and it's true that the first people we meet sort of shape our perception or perspective here in Canada. Well, my question to you, Fidelia, is this. I mean, you are the president of NIRO, so I can imagine you have a couple of over 1,000 members in your community. How can we share our stories authentically? Now, because with storytelling, there's some level of vulnerability, right? So how open can we be to tell the story the way it is so that it can actually pick up some learnings from our stories, and that becomes tools for them to become successful in their own journeys?
Thank you for the opportunity, and good evening, everyone. I think you pretty much answered that question. We just have to be authentic. I think a lot of the challenges that people face when they come here is there's this rose-tinted glass that has been painted. Like, people have been told, oh, Canada is that land where once you get in, all of the problems are solved. Like, you get $1 million in a year. And I think being authentic with our story and being vulnerable to really go deep and be sincere about our journey will allow people to see that it is very rough from the start. Like, let's face it, you are living your life, what you've known, and you're packing everything and starting in a new country afresh, a country that has very different culture, different ways of living, different social norms. I think it would be a disservice to think that coming here and everything will just be all rosy and dandy in the first couple of months. That's a false narrative in my own opinion. So being authentic and sharing your stories, I believe, will help people to see that it's rough at the beginning. It can be challenging, but it gets better. I'm yet to see someone whose story has not changed after maybe that's me being naive, but I think it gets better. So I think being authentic and sharing that story would help folks to see that yes, it's rough at the start, but it does get better, and the sky is the stepping stone.
That's amazing. Thank you so much, Fidelia. We have to paint our own canvases, right? That's so correct. Now, Aramide, you are an entrepreneur in Canada, and that's very commendable because so much of us coming here, and the first thing we want to do is hustle our way to raise money to pay the bills. And so thinking of starting up a business will be far-fetched. But here you are, you have done what most of us, I'm speaking for myself, what I haven't done. And so please could you share, how do we as immigrants identify opportunities and privileges within the system so that, because what I heard Fidelia say when she was speaking was there has to be a strategy. When there's no strategy, you just move without, there's no mission and no vision, so you are clueless, you're just moving, with emotion. But how can we be deliberate in identifying opportunities that would propel us into the entrepreneurship space?
Thank you very much. So in my opinion, and this is already been buttressed by Fidelia and Dr. Jane. I'll use myself as an example, is when I came into the country, I came with the intention to be an entrepreneur. So I didn't stumble on it. It was not.
Yes, please. Yes, put your hands together for that. Intentionality, huh?
So I do recall that 2 years before we actually moved, so we had a confirmation of family residence for a bit, and we didn't move because I just changed jobs back home, and it was part of my career path. I wanted to fulfill that part of my career path, and so I stayed back to do that, because if I had moved at the time, there would have been a sense of, lack of satisfaction. I didn't achieve what I wanted, and then you're struggling to get things started here. It wasn't something I was ready for. So I took my time. And then we also planned financially, because we had known that when we get here, you're gonna work, I'm gonna pursue this entrepreneurship thing, and we'll figure it out somehow, right? So we kind of planned for what the financial implication might be. For us, it helped that we had family. So for us, it helped that we had family, so landing was a little softer. But with regards to telling our stories, I feel like I heard somewhere that there's a danger in a single story. And so for that reason, while things might be tough in certain situations, while it might be daunting to try something new. Sharing our stories of how we find opportunities. And in my case, because I had a plan to come into Canada and pursue entrepreneurship, I had started looking for areas and things that I could do. It also helps that I came from a marketing and advertising background, so I was my own critic, right? So I would come up with ideas and say, oh, I'm going to do X. I'm like, and so why would anybody buy my X, right? What if there are 10 other X's? Why would they look my way, right? So I was very objective. So I was objective in criticizing the things that I wanted to do. And it's not to say that those things were not good, it's just, you don't want to be surprised. You don't want to, like I said, don't go with the rose-tinted glasses and then you get there and reality dawns and you're shocked. That's the part that hurts, right? But if you're prepared and you've anticipated that there might be some uphill travels, when that time comes, you're not overwhelmed. We joke around the fact that Canadian immigration is not for the faint-hearted. And I assume it's the same for immigration anyway. If you came from the UK to Canada, you went from somewhere in Africa to Europe or something, you're leaving the spaces and the environment and the people and culture you know to something that you do not know. So you have to be mentally prepared for it. So in my opinion, I would say is have a plan, probe that plan, right? Plan for that plan. Financially be ready. And when you do, and when I say plan for it, when you get here, you'll see a lot of things, right? He said the people you meet initially would determine how far you go, and that's a very true statement. If you meet people who are, on an upwardly mobile path, then they let you see that, oh, I can get there too, right? Maybe I'm not there today, I will get there tomorrow. Maybe you meet somebody who was an entrepreneur, and you had such intention, then you're not too scared. You see that somebody's done it, right? So that's why I feel like we need to tell this kind of stories, either as someone who's gone and done something unconventional, or somebody who's followed the conventional path but still beat the odds, right? It's important that we tell all the different stories from all the sides. For some people, it's really rosy, like they literally get their job before they land, right? For some people, it's like that. Right, they have a beautiful life, they land into their beautiful apartment. But for some other people, it's months and you cannot even find a house to stay in. Like you're living in Airbnb for months. Imagine that financially, right? Or you even have kids. If you're doing it by yourself is one thing, you have kids, so the stories are different. So having the different perspectives and telling it with authenticity is very important.
That is amazing, and thank you for those profound points. Preparation and plan for the plan. I love that. That's so great. So Blessing, you sit on the seats where you see different angles. You manage diverse groups of people, and so you're able to see, perhaps see directions from different facets. How, in your own opinion, would you explain, or how would you define what the first few steps should be for an immigrant who is, like she said, is here now, maybe has done a few months or years, still scratching the surface? What should be that platform or springboarding that you need to do to get yourself fully consolidated here in Canada?
Thank you for that question, and thank you to the organizers for putting this together and everyone for coming together to listen and build the stories and share. Talking about, I'd like to start from telling our stories, right? I believe that storytelling is integral to human development through ages. It's how we has history across from generations past, and we have learned where we currently are and are going to, because when we know where we're coming from, we know we're going to, it's giving rise to industries like Hollywood, and the rest. That whole industry shapes the perception of the people, of a culture, and informs interactions across spaces. And so when you have diverse communities coming together, interacting like Canada is, I like to call it the Jambalaya pot, everybody from everywhere. You have people who are interacting with each other based on the perception of what they understand from the different stories that have been told. And the new immigrants, like it or not, are also coming with those perspectives. They've heard, they've seen, they've heard stories, they've had experiences that sometimes corroborate those stories or make it false. I would say the first step starts from before you land, like you said, planning for the plan. While we hear the stories, the application is still personal. And so your immigration journey is a personal thing that you need to also understand. How does it relate to you, your unique circumstances, and what you may find yourself. My personal story, I planned for the plan, but unfortunately was riddled of all my relocation funds and landed broke. And if you were watching some of the trailers, you would hear me say, I actually applied to Tim Hortons because at that point in time I couldn't afford not to even stay a day without working because, well, I felt the fear and I decided to do that free anyways. That being said, when I interact with people in my current role and understanding where they're coming from, recognizing the different challenges, even in previous roles, I would say to hiring managers, I read between the lines in the resumes that are being submitted. I see the stories that haven't been told in the first page. I understand from the names and from the locations where they are at that you might not necessarily understand. So take a pause. When they look down, it's not because they're shy or dishonest, it's because they're giving you respect. Because in their culture, it is disrespectful to look to you eye to eye. So understanding those different perspectives, and I see my role as bringing to fore these different stories, the humanity behind the statistics, to say, when you understand what the stories are, then we can collaboratively build solutions that benefit everyone.
Thank you so much for summing up the way things did. Thank you. And I will continue to ask questions, but please, if you do have questions, feel free to write them out, or if you prefer to speak up. We have volunteers all over the room. Just motion to one of them and then they'll let me know so we can give you the microphone to ask your questions. That's beautiful. Fadila, I'll come back to you because now we're talking about environment and community support, which is where you very much, thank you very much, which is where you very much fall into, right? So, Lesson just told us now that, it's hot. She had lost financial progress and she had to start from scratch. So it plays out differently for different people, right? So, but what is the role of community and a space like this, in ensuring that we get soft landing when immigrants arrive here?
I'll start by saying that the role of community is first to make sure that mistakes are not repeated.
Awesome. Please put your hands together for that.
I think that's the core even why we have Nairo today. Is we went through certain parts that are not the greatest, that now that we know better, if we knew better, we wouldn't have taught those parts. Is for folks coming in, they're not making that mistake. I also think that community is important for a sense of belonging. When you come into a country like Canada, you could get lost, no matter how well-to-do, how smart, intelligent and all, you can be lost in how do I even navigate my way. So community, I think, plays a huge part in first giving you that welcoming environment, making you feel like you belong, and then helping you navigate the challenges and the nooks and crooks of Canada, the journey as a whole. It also helps, back to Prof's point, the first person that you meet is very crucial. It helps you really figure out your path. I already talked about planning and all of that. Great and fantastic. But the reality too, lesson, I did all my planning. Like I was just married and pregnant when I came. And I was very transparent with Kanistuga College to say, look, I'm pregnant. I just found out I'm pregnant. I have nobody here in Canada. I need to know what I have to do. As coming in. If I have to stay back in my country, I'm happy to stay back to have my baby because I'm not taking chances, But, so that's me doing planning, getting that information ahead of time. But the college said, oh, you're good, we have pregnant students, that's not a problem, come, you're covered. And I specifically asked about health insurance. Oh, you're covered, you have your health insurance. So I did all of that work. When I came into Canada, it was something else. Oh, you're not covered. You're covering, pregnancy is considered existing condition. That changed, so you could do all of the planning, but in reality, it might not pan out for you that way. So, how did I survive? Community. and leaned on the few Nigerians we had then who came together and said, this is our pregnant student, our sister, we have your back. So we can go on and on, but I think community just plays a huge role in ensuring that you have that soft landing, are able to navigate the Canada with ease, are able to help you thrive. I'm going to also go the other route of importance of community as a whole. Like where we're headed with in there is that we want to be a force to be reckoned in the region of Botany. But how do we do that is when we all thrive, our GDP increases and we can authoritatively be voices at the table where decisions are being made. You know, that's the eventual goal, but this is all through our community. So, I hope that answers your question.
Oh, that answers my question so profoundly. Thank you very much. And just before I let you go, please, I have to pass the mic around the panel. No, begin with you, Blessing. So you shared the Rising Strong initiative. What was the experience like for you sharing your story? And what would be the takeaway you want us to go back with?
It was interesting and vulnerable at the same time, going back, memory lane to remember. I honestly forgot that my first job I lasted just one day until they asked. And I was like, okay, actually that was true. That was one job that I actually got. That, oh my goodness.
Can you give details? Why did you last just one day?
Okay, we went through the training. I didn't realize it was a door-to-door salesman for a telecom company. I didn't realize that. And it was in the thick of winter, like I landed at the end of the year. I started the job like in the middle of January. First introduction to Canadian winter. I might even have persevered because I was in desperate situations, right? So I needed to earn. And so I might have persevered, but I was going through, the first day of that training introduction. I knocked on the door and the guy let out the dog to come meet me. And the dog was like this massive. I literally fell back on my ass on black ice and I'm like, no. I know I'm desperate, but not this desperate. So yeah, I actually forgot that experience until Ola proved and I'm like, oh yeah, that happened. So it was very vulnerable and we established earlier on, being authentic to share this because people see you now and they're like, oh, director, and I'm like, director with a history. And we're still thriving, and you said community. We still need community to keep thriving because this isn't the end.
Sure.
You're still growing.
Aspiring.
Exactly. So, and we keep telling the story and everything. So it was honest, it was joyful at times, we had good laughs, but at if one word I could say was authentic and vulnerable.
That's great. And it's good that you also identify that was too much to give at the time, because sometimes you say, we want to persevere, I want to be courageous, and then you take risks that you cannot manage. I don't think that's so. So thank you for being wise enough to protect yourself. Okay, I'll ask you about the same question. So how was the experience for you sharing your story on the Rising Strong?
I call myself a confidently shy person. In that
Good phrase. I like it.
Yeah.
Confidently shy.
Because I don't like being in front of the camera. I can write my story. I can tell you over the phone, but I would rather not do it. So it was a challenge to accept the invitation, and it was when it started. I think we even did half the interview before the camera started released, and they were like, okay, what are we going to say when we start scrolling, right? It was that much fun. And to Blessing's point, it was a moment for me to actually then stop and reflect and realize, we've come this far, right? Because I don't think I've actually taken stock like that. Right, so it was an opportunity to take stock and really step back and look at how far I have come. Step back to kind of from the outside, revisit certain situations and events that had happened. So yes, it was that was very good for me. I'm like, okay, if I'm seeing it from this point of view, I do hope that it inspires other people when they watch it. I hope that they see that there's value in our story, not just for ourselves, but for the next person. For the outsiders, and I say this with all sense of respect, but I mean that by the non-immigrants who probably have biases, lack of understanding, and to Blessing's point, they've seen things on TV, on the media, and that has formed their opinion. So I hope that would help them see that we are a very diverse people with an absolutely uniquely diverse story for each person. People come from vast backgrounds. They are experts, they are industry heads. People have come from all walks of life, but because a certain storyline has been pushed for too long, right? It is the brush rather with which all of us are being painted, right? So I do hope that with this series, people can see the wealth and the value in the African immigrants in Canada. They can see, like she said, it costs us a lot of money to come here.
Sure.
It is not free. We're not on social assistance. We actually contribute to these things happening, right? So I hope that that's what people will take out of it. I hope it changes perspective. I hope people begin to appreciate their immigrant neighbors. I hope that conversations are had. Like, what do you do? What is that? I remember when my neighbor asked me, because on my street, my family is the only black one on my street, right? And it's a small street, so we get together quite a bit. And we were having a birthday party, I think, and somebody asked me what I did, and then I told her. She's like, okay, tell me more. Because she had no idea that you could actually eat the skin off of a cow. Right?
Well, we call pomo, just in case. You could even take that home, yeah? Pomo, yeah.
Like, how do you do that? And she was genuinely curious. And also, she'd known me because I had a specialty food market before this. And so she'd known me with that, and she was always curious as to why people were coming around and picking up big boxes and stuff. Like, we buy in bulk because it makes financial sense to buy in bulk, and then you pack it up and you use it as you need, instead of me going to the store and buying one pound of meat, right? It was good conversation, and it was also enlightening for her, right? So I do hope that people begin to have those kind of conversations that opens and breaks down the barriers.
Thank you for articulating your thoughts so clearly. Thank you so much. And Doctor, without coming to you once I'm done with Doctor now, Doctor, what do you hope people will take away from your story, the stories you shared with us on the Rising Strong video?
Yes, I want everyone to know that Canada is a global cultural salad. It's a mix of
What a description!
It's a mix of people from different parts of the world. And now, talking about the Black community, I love what Fidelia said, community. It helps you settle down, have that soft mind. But what happens if the first person you met is not friendly? Some people will just withdraw and stop talking to you. I've met Nigerians who know me as an actor back in Nigeria, but they'll just say hello. Some don't even say hello, they'll just be looking at me. All right? I brought that orientation from Nigeria that, we Africans will say hello. At least in my culture, you must say hello, greet someone. But a lot of Nigerians here don't do it. So whoever you see first, the way they treat you will either let you open your arms or just keep to yourself. But what I want to bring out, I said it in the video, that a lot of Nigerians will say, I don't want to mix with other Nigerians. I don't want to have anything to do with them. You go about brooding on that problem when the person sitting next to you has the solution. He doesn't have to give you money, information. And we call it networking. Talk to someone, ask questions. The era is when you can just find out. If someone speaks a strange word to you, you can Google search. You even know how to pronounce it. So, doing this research, finding out from people may be difficult. Okay, if people don't want to talk to you, then read up. Read up. So what I believe people should do, because the culture here is different. When I came to College Toga and I met Fidelia, I said, said, oh my God, at least I have someone who's black like me. And that was 2018. After 2018, we had a lot of influx into Canada. So when I saw her, she was quick to recommend me for so many things. I said, Fidelia, she happened to be the only black lady in the support staff in Conestoga. So it was, yes, I could talk to her, she opened up. I benefited from her goodness because she enjoyed smooth landing. I wouldn't know who she met first, but she landed happily. And for that reason, she's able to relate with me. But if you have that mindset, then no, I don't want to have anything to do. Truly, I don't blame people who are very careful. This is a country where you move with someone now, under 5 minutes, the person is going to put you in trouble. So you don't know who that person is. So you want to be careful. Friendship is overrated around here. Very overrated. In Canada, you meet someone today, the person might not open up to you until like a year after. It's trying to look out for something. Once it feels comfortable talking to you, you start. Okay? So what I want people to learn from my video, from my shoot is just have a mindset. Even if you leave Lagos to Ibadan, you'll still be overwhelmed. When you get to Ibadan, you have to start making new friends. For me, friendship makes me cry. I love having friends around. People who know me here, who are my friends, they know I'm a hugger. Alright? But of course, it has to be mutual. There must be an agreement. Okay? So there are some people they don't like it. So you have to understand that. In the video, I talked about touching in the Canadian culture. And I'll share an experience of a colleague of mine who wanted to counsel a student. She wanted to counsel, the student was having problems, so she came to see her. In Conestoga, we are not just professors, we are counselors too. When your student feels comfortable to discuss certain personal issues with you, you should be able to help. If it's beyond you or you cannot offer suggestions, tell them to go to counseling. There are trained counselors to handle that. But if it's something you can do, by all means do it. So the girl who was coming was so emotional. I learned something from what one of our colleagues told the lady. She said, when the girl comes, I know you're overwhelmed. I know you're concerned about the girl's suffering and all that. But please, don't touch her. Let her talk. If she's crying, if you can get tissue paper or something, let her just. But don't try to touch. Some will touch, and I've known of a pastor in this country who lost his job because he told a lady that she was looking like a madame because they were working in a factory back in Brampton. And the lady was really looking beautiful. So the way we talk in Africa, oh my God, you look madame, you look good. A Nigerian lady would appreciate that. But the lady didn't find that funny. The word madam, probably she looked it up and that got you in trouble. She wrote HR. She didn't talk to the guy. She used the language of these verbal abuse and I can't take it. He lost the job. It's as trivial as that. They call it verbal abuse. And at Conestoga, she knows, we do some training year in, year out to remind you. Because even lovers in Canada, when you're two lovers, consenting adults in the room trying to do something, once the lady says stop, you know how Canadians say stop? You have to stop.
Right on.
So you have to stop, even when you're both consenting. That's the culture here. But back in Africa, most of our ladies, they'll say, I don't want it, and it will
And
happen.
it means actually continue, right?
So I can go on and on, but from the video we will learn a lot, and it's going to shape our decisions, it's going to help us.
Thank you, Doctor, for
You're
sharing these
welcome.
perspectives. I find them very fun, they're very interesting and profound too, because truth be told, as little as these details are, they mean a lot. And so we cannot close our ears to them or our eyes to them. These are things we must find out. What's happening here? What's the culture in this place? Even in your workspaces, what's the culture in my workspace? So that you align to the rules, to the policies that have been set up, and we don't become the different ones. Okay, thank you so much, Doctor. And again, I want to remind you, if you do have questions, feel free to ask. Just let us know. Okay, great. We have to round off now. Fidelia, I have to take this one very quickly. So again, to you, how do you think your story will impact people?
I've already touched on that. I am. How do I explain this without? We're already almost time. I'm just hoping that my story helps people to see that it does get better eventually, and that I think being the president of NARA, we always hear a lot of sad and frustration, and especially for newcomers. I'm hoping that my story, or our story as a whole, helps people to see that it is a journey which eventually gets better with resilience, with leaning on people. You know, again, yes, people are being cautious, but I don't know that I would have survived Canada if I did not let myself lean on people, if I did not ask for help, if I wasn't open and vulnerable and upfront about my journey. I think you can be all of that and still be cautious and still have boundaries. You can seek for help and still have the boundaries and still be intuitive to know if someone is trying to, oppress you or abuse you and all. So you can be cautious and all. And I'm hoping that that's a takeaway. There's one part I really want to touch on because we've talked on a lot of things. I really want to share this because it's very dear to my heart. And we see it a lot. There's a lot of breakdown in marriages, in family units because of immigration. And that can be avoided if you seek the right support when coming in. There's a lot of learning and unlearning that needs to be done. We're coming from a culture where it's very patriarchal, and men are taught a certain kind of way, and that's not the system here. And that is leading to a lot of breakdown. Plus the journey towards getting to that place where you're comfortable adds to that layer of frustration within the marriage. So I think it's very important for marriage couples when they're coming in to lean on couples that have been here for long, not just any couple. Take your time, go for counseling if you can't find a couple. But my point is to be intentional about learning how it works here, how marriage works here, and try to adopt that new way so that you still, while you're thriving as a family, your marriage also is growing and is thriving along. I'll end there.
And I would just say wow to that. And I want to thank you so much, Dr. Joanie, Aramide, Blessing, and Fidelia for sharing your epic success stories with us. We have learned a lot, haven't we? And I'm sure our bags are full. We have lessons we're going to take home with. And I'm hoping that we will not just hear these things or will act on them, because if you don't take action, then you actually haven't learned. It's one thing for you to hear something, to learn that thing you've heard, and then to put it into practice. Thank you so much. All right. Okay, I'm really excited because this is my pleasure. I'm sorry, my hand. Thank you. Yeah, I can feel the hugs. I'm a hugger myself. Please hug me. Thank you so much. That was amazing. All right, now.